This is my good buddy, Matt Stewart. Matt and I met through kind of a funny scenario, but I sold Matt my Genesis drill that I deeply regret selling because
now I'm going to charge him to plot it.
Yeah, now I'm paying for that equipment. But anyway, whatever, it's all good. But we met through that, and Matt's a Meigs Countyan, so we kind of had kindred spirits about what Meigs County has produced, and you know, I've spent, I don't know, almost 15 years of my bow hunting here. I haven't even told Matt yet, but the first farm I ever hunted is right by a telephone pole. It was 25 acres. So I always prayed that my food plots would pull a deer off this farm. Like, just prayed. Yeah. You know, they all lived here. Could I get one over there? And so I did, and that's kind of how I became friends with this seller. But anyways, we digress. So Matt is here because he's another great connection that I've built where he's gonna come in and do, obviously what I'm capable of doing is doing my own food plots, but it's time, it's just time. Sure. And Matt's super good at this. So we're gonna have him come in. He's gonna check out today the food sources we're gonna put in and kind of give us either his feedback or his ideas and suggestions. And the other thing that I'm going to allow to happen here, don't tell anyone at Real World, but it is what it is. I'm gonna have Matt put his own seed in because we are just out of time to wait for me to go get another order. And this just, you know, it didn't work out the way I had anticipated it would. So we're just gonna pivot and we're gonna do Matt's seed blend that you like. So Matt's playing with what was once Tyler's drill, that's now Matt's drill, back on Tyler's farms. Anyway, but I'm excited about it. So first for him, I'm appreciative that he's come in and been willing to, out of a, I'm sure, insanely busy schedule, come in and like add us in to your rotation. But tell them, like, I'm sure people watching this are gonna say, like, people pay you to come put food plots in. Like, number one, what I do, people don't think is a thing. So now number two, maybe people don't think what you do is a thing. And it's like this whole ecosystem. So how did that happen for you? How did that start?
So first of all, grateful, thankful, appreciative to be here.
Yep.
And so back in the late 80s, my dad was putting in food plots before food plots was food plots. Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of had grew up on a farm. And this smells like home. You grew up on a sweet corn farm. And,
bug spray, produce,
yeah, pretty
deer
much
corn.
Pretty much summers, that's what it consisted of. So, so basically grew up on a farm, and you know, I ran a pizza restaurant for 20 years, kind of got out of that. Just wanted to go out and play in the woods, be able to spend more time at home, which...
Direct transition, by the way, you know, pizza joint into, you know, deer food plots.
Right. So basically I'm out here playing on equipment, planting food plots and trying to make people's hunts a little more successful. I have some blends that I've used that work. I'll back up. I do have a forestry mulcher. So
yeah, talk about like what you do, not just in food plots.
So a lot of my customers now, like people that you know, not so much locals because they've got a little bit more access and time to their properties, but people that buy land that are out of town. A lot of those clients are calling me. I have a forestry mulcher, which is just basically a big brush hog on steroids. I go into areas and clean them, mulch everything down, and then I go back in and put food plots in. I have mixes that I like to use. Depending on what time of the year it is, I like to use different things. I'm not going to share my secret sauce right now, but I will eventually.
But if you contract his services, you will get his secret sauce. But so if you're watching this and you're potentially interested in this farm, let me already tell you, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school, like you would be a pivotal connection for someone.
Absolutely.
If they bought this out of state.
Absolutely.
This is in his, you know, wheel well of service area. So you just talk about even like general maintenance, like when you're in a farm like this, you have to mow roads every year. You have to spray plots and mow clover. Like, do you do those things?
Absolutely. Absolutely do those things. From the initial standpoint of setting up the food plots and setting up where your food sources are, your bedding, your water areas, and then going back in and planting the plot. I mean, you know, I have a drone that I fly over and I can look at new areas. If you're a new customer, if you're, you know, a customer that buys this farm. Yep. You know, definitely.
He does an awesome job of that, like the before and after.
Yeah.
Matt's service is such an enormous benefit. I first saw this type of service in Illinois. I was out in Illinois years ago, and one of my buddies did that, where he, you know, I was texting him one day and he was like, yeah, I'm putting in food plots for so-and-so. And I just was like, that makes so much sense. Like, because I would have just like got my trailer rigged up, gone out to Illinois, totally, you know, risk my family success and, you know, vehicle success and everything else to do that. Whereas if I could have just made a connection locally, that would be a repeat thing. It's like, it's repeatable. So I think that's where, for you, I'm sure you have plenty of repeat customers.
Yeah, I do, and a lot of my customers, sometimes I'll meet them the initial time, and I'll fly the drone over, and we'll look at things. And you know, some people know exactly what they want, some people don't. And I'm not, you know, I don't claim to be an expert. I mean, I've been in the woods, and I kind of know what works, and I know what doesn't work sometimes. And a lot of my customers, though, most of them, I'll meet with them the first time, the initial visit. And then after that, it's kind of an honor system. You know, I usually don't draw up contracts.
Right.
It's usually a firm shake on the first time. And then, you know, after I get after it and do whatever I need to do, whether it's cleaning the land or whether it's putting in a food plot, usually I just take videos and pictures and send them to the customer, and they tell me whether they're happy. I FaceTime them, I use my drone, and kind of do like we did on the other farms that I've done for Tyler.
You're at such a high standard, and I don't mean to cut you off. He said this the very first time we worked together in the capacity that we're working now was, he was like, well, you know, and he made a joke about it, but he's like, well, I'm a people pleaser. Like, I really have a high standard. It's probably why I have heart palpitations.
Wearing a Holter monitor right now as we speak.
His heart rate is getting higher as I'm talking. But no, like when he said that, I'm sure if you're watching this and you know, like when you make connections in your life that just feel right, like you're cut from the same grain. Like for Matt, that was the same thing. Like we get each other, we get what needed to be done, and he did an excellent job. So it was just nice to know and feel like his standard's probably higher than mine. And I fully expect that here, where he's gonna be like, man, I missed one row, man. Like, and I'll totally go back at midnight tomorrow and do it during a rain with my tractor lights. He would do it just because that's how high of a standard he has. So that's just, you know, and rare.
I think, well, and I think, you know, first of all, the standard comes from the one that I serve. The second thing is running a pizza restaurant, and I had a couple of them locally here. I always try to put myself in whoever's paying me shoes. It's not just about the money. Obviously, everybody's got to eat, you know, so.
Well, and it's really not about the money for Matt. He's super reasonable. I mean, everything he's ever done for me, I think has been super fair.
I'm working, but I'm really playing on equipment.
I literally say the same thing. Like, it just baffles me that this is work today. Like, I've been excited about coming down here and doing this day here in Meigs, like for a week.
Sure.
Just knowing like this is work, but I just like putting our stamp on something, and I know you get that too. Like, that's why I immediately, when I knew, all right, can we pull this off? Like, can we get this farm? We got this farm closed Friday. Can we pull this off? You and I both would say weather-wise, because there's no rain coming. But timing-wise, we could pull it off.
Well, that's the benefit of the drill, you know, the Genesis drill. I mean, the no-till. I mean, there's moisture in the ground that's laying there right now,
and you can still capture it.
And you can still capture it. If you know, and I'm not trying to bash people that till ground, because I've been a tiller. I stopped for 15 years. I truly, I mean, that's all I've ever done is till ground.
And it's cool. I'm like, it looks cool.
You love the smell of it.
It looks neat.
You get to possibly in this area, you're probably going to find some arrowheads
or a shed or whatever. Yeah, it's cool.
But here's the thing, you know, with the drilling, the moisture stays right in the ground. I mean, I've had germination on some of the cereal grains in 72 hours.
Well, and moisture is the one, but like there's like 20 benefits to me of no-till, because I'm the same way on my farm. So full transparency, I sold my 5-foot Genesis to Matt. What he does with that machine is way more applicable than what I started doing, because I sold a farm and picked up, like, I had almost 40 acres between soybeans and food plots that I was going to do in you know, legitimate tillable ground. So I just stepped up to an 8-foot pull behind machine. You know, it's not practical at all for farm food plot running, because it's huge. It's probably 10 foot wide with the tires.
Sure.
So it's not practical. So here we are back to, you know, the Matt machine, and a great machine. But since I've been no-tilling, like, not only do you have that moisture benefit, but I've seen enormous benefit when you spray and you don't re-disturb that ground.
Sure.
Your spraying and killing is so much more effective.
Sure, absolutely.
And you're keeping all that, like, you know, like we're looking at what's been mowed, it's all just dying and staying. You're just feeding the ground.
You just said it. You're feeding the ground, which in return is feeding microorganisms, the night crawlers, everything that builds the soil.
And to me, I think it reduces fertilizer cost long term.
Well, absolutely.
But to me, like that crimping, obviously, if that plant seeds out before you get it crimped, and I'm not the expert, but I would think if it seeds out and then you crimp it, well, then you're laying the seed down on the ground. You may terminate the plant, but I don't think you're terminating the seed that then hits the ground. I think, and you're starting back over.
Sure.
And maybe you want to on some of that.
Sure. No.
Maybe you want to.
Sure. And I think that there is a certain time frame to crimp things.
Do you crimp?
I don't crimp, but I've looked into the crimp. I mean, I looked into the crimper 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
You know, and I was going to crimp. But I just never pulled the trigger. I mean, it's it's another added cost, and if you want to do a 2-in-1 pass, which I kind of looked at, you have to have a bigger rig, and you know, a lot of my plots
and that makes it less portable.
Absolutely portable. So portable, and then being able to go up these hills, it's not feasible for us to drag a 15-foot John Deere drill up this hill. I mean, it's the Genesis, it's the 5-footer, it's light and able to get into places. But you know, another thing too is you build the soil, so you're feeding the soil, you're building the soil, and a lot of people think that, you know, they have to throw all this fertilizer and all this lime, and all you're doing really is you're throwing away your money, because as you break down the microorganisms and all the things in the soil and all the loamy soil, what you do is you create openings to where there's can be erosion. There's all different types of things that can happen.
These earthworms. I've never thought of all this, but there was a no-till guy I talked to. It was like, you literally cut and kill those earthworms when you disc. And I'm like, I don't know why that matters. But you start looking into it, and it really matters.
Absolutely.
How can people get a hold of you?
Call me.
Well, it's Stewart Springs LLC, right?
Yep, 740-508-7400.
Boom. And full transparency, like obviously your service area is not 10 hours from here.
No, so I'm like in the southeastern Ohio area. I went to Gallipolis, Rio Grande, Athens. You know, I like to stay in this area just because this is, you know, I don't want to travel too far, but you know, I'm always willing to talk to anybody. I mean, and if you just wanted me to look at something, I'd be happy to do it.
Well,
and no charge. I mean, just to be able to look at it and try to give you some.
I'll bill you. Just see. I'll bill for him.
This is a really busy time for me because a lot of people are gearing towards the fall food plots. I've already put in a bunch of acreage this fall already. I've got mulching things that I'm throwing in. I'm trying to keep clover ready to go for the winter. So there's a lot of things happening right now. So timing is a big thing. I will say this. From January till March is usually the best time. If you want me to drive somewhere and console and look, and that's the best time. For a number of reasons, I'm not as busy, but also
everything's dormant.
Everything's dormant. You can fly the drone, you can look at everything, you can look at all the landscape, you can see all the rolls. A lot of times you can see where the deer are bedding in the winter, and you know all those little things.
And you've got all this MRI from hunting. You know, unless you just bought something or you have MRI secondary from the sellers, but like all the trails are fresh. Like it's a great time. So I didn't want to, like, obviously I'm not volunteering Matt to go somewhere that's 3.5 hours away, but someone that does what he does is just not super common. So just reach out. I'm sure he would do something if it's something reasonable distance, but to us and to whoever's watching this, if you're interested in this farm we're actually on, obviously he's going to get to put his own touch on it, but I'm sure this would be an excellent property for him to be able to be a repeat help to you.
I mean, absolutely. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful farm. And
we haven't even been on it yet with Matt.
No, I haven't. You haven't. But let me add this too. You know, Buffington Island, Morgan's Raid, and I'm not a big historical buff.
I know where he's going.
But this, I mean, metal detectors and people that are treasure finders.
This was the only
beautiful.
Do you know the actual data is like this was the only historic civil war in Ohio or something like that? It was right here.
Yeah, I don't remember the date, but yes.
But it was right here.
It was right here in this area.
They literally, there's a historical society just bought a piece of property that almost borders this farm.
Correct.
But of course, I don't think they're going to let anyone hunt.
No. But
and it's right there just to preserve this history of what he's talking about.
This is a beautiful. I mean, just there's so much.
Is there big bucks in the river bottoms of Meigs?
Oh, goodness.
Because I keep saying it, and Ben's from like Northeastern, so you know he's kind of leaning on us of is this a cherry area? But I have said to Ben, dude, the genetics down here are sick. It's crazy what this produces down here, because I was always over there begging
Absolutely.
to get a shot at one of these bucks, begging. We're looking at West Virginia in the background. That's West Virginia. So we're in the southernmost part of Ohio.
God's country, baby.
Yes. All right, over and out. Stewart Springs. Can't wait for him to help us out with what he's going to do with my drill that he now owns that he's putting on my farm. But anyways, whatever. See you guys.